Hi everyone, here's the complete property development system that I teach in my course. So we've got about 11 different modules. However, I actually combined almost 3 different modules into the second module, and that's why they look a little bit less. But I think the process is actually a lot more detailed in the course than you can see over here. So let me just go over each one of them, what's included, what's not, and so on. So the first one is ready, set, introspection, which is basically we're looking into our own heads, our mindset, so to speak. So in here, I basically, over the years when I started off, I had a totally different mindset as to how to do property development, or not even just the property development, just in general in life, the way I took on challenges, the way I made excuses, and so on. And over the years, I've had a total transformation in the way I actually think. And what I've done here is basically shown you details of, not details, but there are certain laws that I now live by. And those laws have actually helped me, not only just in property development. There are actually 3 laws in there that are totally pure related to property development. But those are certain things that I think all of us, you should have if you really want to become a property developer, because those laws are the underlying principles that will actually keep you on track and help you complete the development. So that is what I actually share, and I'll in the next video I'll actually show you what's actually in it. So then we've got the Delta method. I call it the Delta method because there are 3 things that I use in my development process in order to actually arrive to the actual site before I've actually gone ahead and done anything with the project. So I call it my process of logically eliminating and minimizing risk from the moment you basically sit behind your computer. So if you are looking for a project, we start with a big, huge macro view, then we zoom into the actual suburbs that we're going to use to develop, and so on. And that's how we actually, that's how we basically find sites, all the factors that depend on it. So if I expand this and show you what's actually in it, so we've got it's all done step by step. There's a video that actually takes you from the very onset, from pre-selection, that is even before you've thought that this is the site that I'm going to do it. There are steps that you got to take even before you actually zero in on a site. And these modules actually show you everything step by step, what's included and what's not. So under pre-selection, we've got we discover exactly what constitutes a lucrative project. So whether or not a project is good or not, all this is done from the pre-selection module. Where do you begin? How do you find your first project? How do you find your second project, and so on? Where do you look for projects anyway, and why do you look from them? The due diligence overview of what you need to start off with. Property economics there's a full video on property economics, the things that you got to look at to make sure that the economy is doing well, the local area economy is doing well, there are people, what kind of money they make, and so that the product that you're going to develop in your development actually suits everything. Suits the demographics, suits the target audience, suits the people based on the income levels, and so on. So that's what property economics is all about. And I'll show you all these indicators and all these different things that you got to know. Property clock and market cycles. It's everybody needs to understand it, and a property developer must understand what the property clock is, where the market is at, and so on. And I've developed another module called listening for signals, and the way I show you how it's actually done is by looking at some live examples of how do I actually start. I'm sitting behind the computer. What do I do? The first thing I do till the last thing I do, so that I've actually ticked every box in the project, every box in my checklist, before I actually zero in on the project. So I talk about understanding different statistics that indicate, and then they give you indications about the market, understanding capital growth and identifying capital growth suburbs. This is very important because as a property developer, you must understand what's going on between rental yields and between the capital growth that you're expected and the reasons behind that expectation and so on. It gets technical because I go into some formulas to show you how to calculate these things and how to actually pinpoint, so that you're not making a decision just out of thin air. You're actually backing up why you are in this area. And the reason we do that is so that we are logically eliminating or minimizing or identifying all these different risks, so that when I'm actually in a development, I'm pretty confident that, okay, even if the market goes bad or if the market goes flat, the reason I'm here is X, Y, and Z, and that's why this area should not take the hit, or should not take the hit as bad in case the market turns south. So yeah, we get into demographics, the validating different signals. These are all the signals that we are listening for. And it's all done technically. It's all done online. We validate these signals, and we leverage technology. We set up all sorts of different auto alerts so that we are notified if there is something going on in our area. And we talk about exactly how to find your deals and so on. So that's pre-selection. That is even before you've actually thought that, okay, this is my site, that's what I'm going to do. Most people get into development thinking, okay, this is where I live, so I need to develop in the next suburb or the one that's further up from where I live, and so on. So just make sure that it's when you're doing a development, it can be anywhere in the world. But these things and these principles will be exactly the same no matter where you're developing. Why do you think there are big development companies that would do a development in Singapore and then move to US to do a development, and then the same company you'll find that is also doing a development in UK and Australia and so on? It's not because they have to go and start all over again and learn property development for that country. It's because all these underlying things are exactly the same no matter where you do this development. Then we get into due diligence. This is when we've actually figured out, okay, this is the suburb that I'm going to go for, and this is the site that I'm going to go for after. So we figure out how to determine the highest best possible use for the site. We understand what the footprints are and what you can actually fit on a block. We do a location analysis, which is basically the 3 musts that you have when you're doing your location analysis: capital growth, instant equity, and cash flow or passive income. And I go into detail in all of them. We stick to the mainstream suburbs, close to schools, shopping centers, public transport, because no matter what you're developing will be sold. And if your clients are holding their investment, they can rent them out. This is also to be able to get better valuation, so that if the market goes back, it can actually still retain its value. We prefer not to travel an hour out of the CBD to find our projects, because capital growth ripples off the center that is the CBD of any city. Now it could be different in your area. So especially if you're doing massive land developments, then you will have to go out away from that. But this is more for infill developments. The course is more catered not for land development, but it's more for infill developments that you can handle. If you want to get into land development, you can apply the same principles. However, for your research, you will have to hire consultants. So obviously, you're not going to go and develop 1,000 square meters of land. You'll be looking at acreage. And when you are going to do a massive development project, everything that I'm teaching here in this in this course will scale up in terms of research, in terms of anything that you're doing. But if you're doing small to medium-sized development, even if you're doing 100 apartments or something, whatever, this course is still applicable because it covers everything. Shorter days on the market when selling, all these things will be covered in the course in a lot of detail. Site selection factors you must consider before you commit. They are specific to the site. Different zonings and overlay when it comes to town planning. Every city is different. Every council is different. They have different rules, regulations, and res codes that you need to understand. How we collect data and how we analyze data. We go into detail for sale, for rent, for sold, and the development pipeline, which is the most important, and how that actually relates to your pre-selection is all covered in the course. How we do a spatial analysis, that is how we plot all this data visually using Google Maps. I'll show you how all that can be done. There's a 2-second feasibility or the smart feasibility calculator. It shows you how the deal stacks up because all this is part of the course. How do you read the drawings? The reason I included that is because when I started, I was totally not aware of any of this. I actually learned how to read all the drawings and so on. So that's why I decided to include that in there. Your due diligence checklist and your risk management, how you'll identify the risk, how you will mitigate the risk. If you can avoid it totally, you'll avoid it. And how are you going to have your exit strategy. Financial feasibility. I've got more details about financial feasibility than you'll find in a course that's actually dedicated just for financial feasibility. I'll show that to you in the next video, what all is included in that. But just to give you an understanding of what the course has, it's got the full system, has the full understanding and important concepts that you must understand even before you take the next step. So financial feasibility, important metrics and concepts, GST, margin scheme. If you're from Australia, if you're from anywhere else in the world, this won't apply to you. So you can skip that video because I've got the full application for the international market as well, which was put together keeping in mind that there are a lot of people from US who've been wanting to do it. I've already sold courses in US. In fact, the financial feasibility application for the international market was actually developed because somebody from US reached out to me and they do developments full time, and they send me their crude Excel spreadsheets. And so when I developed the application, I developed for the international market, which is primarily for the US market at the moment. But it doesn't have any, it can be totally customized to your market. And for Australia, I am from Australia, so there is an Australian version which takes into account all the GST and everything. So financial feasibility applications, there are 2 of them included in here: my smart feasibility calculator, as well as a full-scale financial feasibility, which is an advanced, includes all the cash flows, the prediction, the S-curves for construction, and so on. So and in this module, we learn precisely how to stack it, all the decision metrics that are required for you to understand what the bank's looking for in your feasibility. There are 2 different summary reports and so on, and I can explain all of that. Understanding development finance. So we've got development finance, how there's a retail finance, that there's a commercial finance. How does the actually finance for development actually works? How does how does your loan actually switch over from a normal retail loan to a commercial loan for construction, and then switches back. So all those details are actually covered in there. So in here, I discuss in a lot of detail what are the banks looking for, how does commercial finance work. There's different stages of development finance, the types of loans, the finance checklist that you would need, and the loan document. There's an example in there included for you to look at. Different valuations, why getting a favorable valuation for your development project, very important. The different types that are available. What are the things that you can do when you are talking to your lender to get a favorable valuation. Understanding valuation methods. What does the valuer look for in your when they're assessing your site, and all the different web resources that you can use to get a desktop valuation and see where you sit at. In the financial feasibility application, I've got different calculations that cover not only the project related site value, that is if your site's already got a permit, how do you calculate those things, and also the residual value of land is also covered in this, because this is closely related to your financial feasibility. Purchasing the site, which is your site acquisition, all kinds of financial structures for asset protection and tax purposes. There's a negotiate for advantage negotiation system, and I've actually developed this over the years. It's not theory, so I won't be talking about all sorts of theoretical structure, but what I've done is I've actually broken down this entire acquisition process into leverage points, different levers that you can use and when you can use them, when to give some and gain some, different strategic pivots that you can pivot off and talk. And it is a very practical system where if they ask you X, Y, Z, this is what you reply with, so that you don't reveal the information that you've got, but you try and get as much information from them as possible. And there's a section that talks about how do you negotiate in a hot market, and so on, and how do you get your favorable terms for the settlement and so on. So that's what purchasing the development side is all about. Obtaining different permits, you can find out exactly how you. The course actually goes into a lot of detail about even the environmental sustainable design stuff as well. So we talk about exactly how to optimize the design and product fit that's environmentally sustainable and cost effective. You get a thorough understanding of which consultants you use and when do you use them, what reports will save you money and which ones are mandatory. Discover everything that you need to do to expedite your DA, which is your development approval, and the town planning process. Line up all your ducks for building approval or building permit, and gain time at every step of the way. Understand everything that you need to have lined up in order to obtain your titles in time for your pre-sale settlements, so that you can save massive dollars each day, and how you save them all. It's all covered in the course. How towards the end of your project, there's a lot at stake, and you got to make sure that you save every day in your development. So, marketing and sales, we go into some details about finding out in detail the various marketing channels available to you today, ranging from old school to cutting edge tech. Pros and cons of each one of them, and which ones to use for what type of development, what strategies to use to market various types of developments, and everything you need to have in place to get your pre-sales in the shortest amount of time. We talk about different 80-20 rules, future property supply, product place, promotion price, agent selection, pre-sales, and monitoring your progress once your development is actually marketed and put online. Construction, we go into details about what type of construction contract that you need to gain an edge over the builder and protect your backside. Optimize and expedite your tender process. Learn the must-have conditions in your construction contract, the different types of contractor selection, the tender process, what should be in a building contract, before construction, things that you need to do before the construction commences, progress claim process, retention clauses, builder's defects liability periods, insurance, and extra resources are all discussed in the construction module. Obtaining titles, understand everything that you need to have lined up to obtain your titles in time for your pre-sale settlements, which is massive dollars every day. Different things that you need to be careful of. Preliminary subdivision plans, what they are, how they work, the occupancy permit or the occupancy certificate, the settlement and the handover package, how does that work, and how you need to put it together. Only after you've gone through this entire course, you'll be able to understand how does the no money down deal actually work. I have been meaning to actually separate this from the main course because I think it's just too much detail for the main course. This is so detailed that it actually can be a standalone course on its own, where I show you how the no money down deal you can put together. So yeah, so imagine your money working in one project and you're executing another one for an equity share or with other people's money. You must know the rules, possess the skills and the tools, and understanding the creative deal-making strategies to put together your very own no money down deals. So in the first module, we talk about ingredients of becoming a no money down deal maker, the equity and sources of equity, the sweat equity and the free equity, strategies for creating sweat equity, the joint ventures with landowners and the joint ventures with money partners and the joint ventures with builders and private funding. Few months time, I will be releasing this and separating this from the main course, but for the time being, it is available with the main course that you can get basically. So creating your APAM, which is your own automatic property acquisition mechanism or your machine. In this, you need to understand, once you've understood all of these steps and everything and how the equity is generated, how the profit is put together, you need to understand how all of this can be applied so that you can create and explode your property investment and create a massive portfolio for yourselves. Because what happens is, after a while, that you understand how you can reshuffle your equity and keep going in property development. And along the way, the whole plan is that, every couple of years you pick up a property that's either unencumbered, or you keep rolling your profit. So if you watch my APAM video in the course, it talks about how I've done it, how I created this machine, how the equity got rolled over and the profits got rolled over into other projects, and how they worked out. So that's what this project's all about. It's about you trying to figure out what your strategy is going to be. Are you going to develop and sell? Are you going to develop and hold? And how are you going to do it? So based on your goals and outcomes that you are gunning for, that's how you choose your strategy. And one of the last modules is about compiling your project report. There's actually another module that's not listed here, but there's like a ton of web resources, free and paid, that I use to do my due diligence, to vet a project just sitting behind the computer, where I collect the data from. So all those details are actually in there in the course that you can leverage off. So compiling a project report, you can either use it for your no money down deals. There's like 3 different Word templates, and all you have to do is, after you've done the course, you'll be able to figure out what goes into every section in that template. And for your project, you'll be able to put this report together like in a couple of hours or something. And but you got to be able to put all this together, because that report would actually make you look formal. That report, even if you present it to your lender, would say that, okay, this person knows what to do. This person knows what they are doing, and how this development would actually come together with everything. So this is the complete property development system. And in the next video, I'll show you some more so the inside, the walkthroughs of what the course looks like, and the videos in it.